Today is Chakra Day, and we're going through the chakras. Also, I was thinking when Susan was talking about this month's birthday and astrological sign, and you're sitting there thinking, well, that has nothing to me. I'm Sagittarian, I'm Aquarian or whatever, Aquarius, but it does. Because here's the thing, most likely in your story of incarnations, you've been all these signs. So I don't want you sitting there thinking this has nothing to do with me because I'm not born under that sign, but you probably have that somewhere in your inner Akashic records, the information of that. So connect with all these things. It's kind of like the idea of not just one astrological sign, but all the 12 are in all of us, much like we teach all the disciples. Remember? Fillmore's all the powers are within us, all the disciples, all 12 of them. Well, this is what we mean when we say that we are the microcosm of the macrocosm. You're everything that the universe could be is in you. Everything. So I just felt to say that because I don't want you sitting there separating yourself and shutting down because you think it has nothing to do with me. It all has to do with you because that's all there is you. So anyway, I wanted to share that with you. We're going to the second chakra. I want to, before I begin, I've been asked, and I want to take a little bit of time to just share with you about a mudra. A mudra. What is a mudra? Now you have these mudras. I don't know how many have them, but I guess they're back there. Yeah. Okay, so you can have these. These are called mudras. What is a mudra? The mudra helps to link the brain to the body, soothe pain, stimulate endorphins, change the mood, and increase our vitality. Has been an integral part of many Hindu and Buddhist rituals. They are used extensively in yoga, meditation, and dance. They are to be held approximately 2 minutes. They also help insomnia, and the benefits are just powerful. Improves concentration and memory. So here's the mudra for this week is in the sacral chakra, and it is this. This is this. This is for creativity. Place hands in lap with your palms facing upward, right palm resting on the left, and then you do the chakra sound, which is VAM. V-A-M. VAM. So let's take a deep breath. Exhale. And breathe. Last time we did this, a few weeks ago, we did the root chakra, which is this. You see people do this a lot. If you watch people meditate, they're doing this. Thumb and index fingers touch, arms straight, hands on knees, and the chakra sound is LUM. And this has to do with bringing in peace of mind and serenity and calmness. So you might be interested. These are back here, all of them. And it shows you a little bit about them, how to do them. And I'd really suggest that you integrate this into your time. How many of you do have a time for your spirituality? Thank you. I mean, you have carved out a specific time in which you've learned to say no to other people. Mm-hmm. You put the phone out, you put the dog out, you put the husband or the wife out, the kids out, whoever, and you say, this is my time. And if you'll let me have my time, I'll be much better for you. Take care of yourself first, and don't you feel guilty about it. So make sure you get some time for contemplation, meditation, and that opportunity to just listen and receive. Stop the chatter and the talking all the time. We need to hear what Spirit is saying to the spiritual community today. That's the only way we're going to navigate through this time of such breakdown and chaos and crises that we're going through right now, is that we become more sensitive to being spiritually guided and led through life. And that takes practice. Remember the old adage, practice the presence. Do you practice the presence within yourself? Please do so. Stop all of this constant disruptions of life that is just so prevalent today, and take time. Of course, the miracle says even 5 minutes will make a difference. Twice a day. Transcendental meditation, 20 minutes twice a day. So who's to say? You. Don't let other people tell you how long or whatever. You will know within yourself. And that's a good place to start, is inner guidance. Very quickly, we talked about chakras and the fact that we tend to always start with the base chakra going up the spine, but actually there would be no energy to go up the spine and through the chakras unless something had first come down into the sacral. That's what's going up, is what came down. If nothing had come down, there's nothing there to go up. So we've talked about that, how that it's important when the teaching was the Son of Man must descend to ascend. That's divine principle. What comes down must go up. But then what comes up must come down. So that is that eternal circle of life that we do. Just a couple of scriptures to back this up is that every good and perfect gift comes from above. In the book of James 1:17. Again, every good and perfect gift comes from above, not up, but first above. Above, coming down from the Father of lights, with whom there is no variableness, neither shadow of turning. Wow. Sometimes there's just pretty things in the Bible, believe it or not, among all the other stuff. I'm going to read it again. Every good and perfect gift comes from above, coming down from the Father. And through the chakras, we're going to take that up into our everyday levels of consciousness. So I'm not going to stay a long time on that, but I could, as you know. So let's talk about the second. Chakras are data bases, data banks. It's where you bank your energy of your story. Everything has an energy to it, right? And everything has a vibration to it. And therefore everything has a sound to it. These are the basic fundamental building blocks of our true self, is vibration, and sound, and color. As all of this goes through the spectrum of vibration, it appears in the vibrations of different color. When the first covenants that the Bible said God ever made was a rainbow covenant. Did you know that? After the flood of Noah, and God made a rainbow in the sky and said, I will never destroy again. Well, I don't think God's destroying. I think we're destroying ourselves. I'm not going to blame it on God. We need to look at ourselves, what we're doing much to ourselves. So we talked about the first chakra as the energy is now getting ready to move upward into our story. So your first story is begins at conception up to the year of 7. Some say 5. Again, I don't know. Numbers are kind of relative. So don't get into the literalism of these things, because it just speaks of a season or a cycle of how energy uses time to bring forth something of itself, right? So from conception on, we know that we begin to be formed of who we're going to become in our incarnation based upon environment. And that is really the new message that's out there, that's a breakthrough message that's changing everything, which is being reached by millions of people through Dr. Bruce Lipton, for instance, Greg Braden, and a few others that really have been put in a position to speak to hundreds of thousands of people and to be world known. And they're certainly changing the whole concept of ourselves and our human story. So that means that most everything you're dealing with right now, I don't care if you're 60, 50, 70, 80 years old, however old you are right now, you are still dealing with things that happen to you from conception to 7 years old. And I'm going to move it to 5 because I think the 7 came from the fact of your first experience of going to school. And that's changed through the years. Now, I was of that 50s group that I was probably about 7 when I went to the first grade, didn't have a kindergarten, so I had no preschool experience whatsoever. But kids now are starting so young that when you start education and that is the beginning of developing your second chakra. So whether that's 5 years old or 4 years old or 7 years old, whenever you step out of tribe and you go into non-tribe people, you've stepped out of the development of your first chakra into the beginning of developing your second chakra. First chakra is tribal. That's all you know. You're taking care of your tribe, your family. You are connected to them genetically. They have a responsibility, or should have a responsibility, of your total care. Your family is your first God archetype of coming in and being totally reliant on something for life and sustain it. That's why we have such deep connections with our families, good or bad. Just because it's a family doesn't mean it's a good. Because I've heard some of your stories, and they're not always so good, that have gone through more challenging experiences with family members. But the majority of us has pretty much made it well through that. They sustained us. We would not have lived without them feeding us, taking care of us. This is very powerful. And we know now, and much proven, that we are affected by environment even during the time we're being formed in the mother. To the point that people now are playing Mozart music to the baby. Daddy is talking to mama's stomach. And all kinds of positive reinforcement is going on while the fetus is being formed into that human being. Now, in my case, while my mother was expecting me, I was in her being dragged around to revival meetings. So my first experience with this whole religious thing was happening before I even got here, that I was receiving the vibrations of my environment. That means that my early religious, or your religious or non-religious experience is a root issue of your story. Are you with me?
Yes.
So if you were raised, say, Catholic or raised Pentecostal or Baptist, or not raised with anything, some of your most early root assumptions about your life and what it's going to be and what it is in that period of the first chakra. So I can't keep staying with the first chakra, but it's important that if you want to rewrite your story, and that's the cool thing about it, is not only are we, as our DNA written in stone and nothing we can do about it, that's gone now. That whole concept is gone, that we are the victims of our ancestral story. Nothing I can do about it. This is what happened to my mother, it's what happened to my grandmother, it's what's going to happen to me. That's a story. And if you don't change that story, you're going to manifest that story. So know your power of how you can change your story. Therefore, the past is not set in cement. There are levels in you where abuse did not happen. Abandonment did not happen. Being put down and told you're ugly or stupid or not smart enough did not happen. Thank you. Thank you. I want you to get that. You don't have to be the product of your ancestral story. Now, not everything in our ancestral story is bad. A lot of us received a lot of good, positive, strong attributes in that story. But most of it's a mixture. I had great parents, but when I look back, I realized they just did the best they could, but I don't know that it was the best. But I do believe they did the best that they could. But looking back, I think there's some things that was missing that could have been a lot better, that would have prepared me more for the different developments of my life. What I'm saying to you, how much of that is still affecting you on an unconscious and subconscious level that is still affecting your decisions about relationships and who you love and who you don't love, what you think politically. All of these things are deeply rooted in that first chakra. I'm asking you today, be born again. They're not going to steal that from me. I believe in it more than they do. They believe walking down, shaking the preacher's hand and saying, I accept Jesus as my Savior, as a born-again experience. Let me tell you, I believe in a rebirth into different aspects and dimensions of myself. And that's what the workshop was about yesterday. How we can spiral into these different levels of alternate consciousness where we meet a different aspect of ourself that we haven't known most of our life. And the part you have not known, you've been vulnerable to let them, society, culture, religion, education, and every third dimensional world system out there form you in their likeness and their image. Do you realize that you've been formed by people who want you to become what they want you to become for their benefit? Yeah. Oh, somebody help me. I made this. And I'm saying it's time for HeartLight to be born again and become as a child so that we may enter the things of the kingdom of heaven. So, second chakra. And you know, I probably won't get through it, so it'll be next Sunday, part 2. The second chakra is the relationship chakra. It is the place in which we begin our partnership and relationship. Its energy begins to pulsate and become distinct around the age of 7. And at that age, children start interacting with other children and adults more independently of their parents and outside the home environment. Your parents are supposed to take care of you and supposed to love you and be there and protect you. Whether they do or not, that's the responsibility of the first years of your life. But when you're immediately thrown into school of some kind, these people don't have to like you. They don't owe you a thing. And the only way that you're going to have a best experience is to have the best relationship. Now this gets touchy because here at this point, how do you hold on to who you are and how much of that you're going to give away to be accepted and validated or popular by the others? That's a big part of your story. How much did you give away to be liked? Because you're still doing it. That's my point. You're still doing it. You're still playing that subconscious recording. You're still doing it and wondering why things are not working out like they really should in the most healthy way. Because we didn't get it right in the second chakra. Something, again, happened to the story. The great story, I'm going to take my time with this because I have some things to say. The great story of relationship begins between creator and created. That's where you want to go. Why in the world would some entity, God, if you want to go there, source, I think we all kind of believe in something bigger than ourselves. I'm not sure we know exactly what it is, and I think we're honest here because all these other religions think they've got it figured out, Susan, exactly what God is and what he looks like and his location and everything like that. We're still trying to figure it out because we have these finite minds that are trying to figure out this infinite being that has no beginning and no end, no birth and no death, and we're still working on it. But that's where that wonderful thing called faith comes in. Because, and I've taught this so much to you, the only reason that this intelligence, this consciousness, wanted to create something because it had not become anything. Oh, it was everything, but it hadn't become anything. This is where the Eastern mind has embraced this idea in Buddhism of called the void. The void. It's not the void of something, it's the void of no thing. But yet it is the void that holds the possibility of everything. It's where everything and no thing become one and the same thing. Are you with me? The void. Maybe that's the zero. Even the Bible starts in, and things were void and without form. And God moved across the face of the deep. I love that. If you see it metaphysically, how that part of us that is void of becoming who we were created to be has that vibration that sweeps over the face of our darkness of unconsciousness. Ooh, I don't know if I can say that again or not. Moved across face of that part of us that is in the darkness. Because there's treasures in the darkness. And those are great memories of what we have forgotten of who we are and who we're created to be. So through these initial interactions, we begin to individuate, form relationships, and explore the power of choice. Now we have a choice. In the first chakra, there's not much choice. Choices are made for us. But in the second one, we feel a little bit more independent to the point that we begin to make choices of what we like and what we don't like. The location of this chakra or energy center is in the lower abdomen of the navel area. Now that's very important. That's a very powerful area. The teacher, Yeshua, in English interpretation, I always try to put that in, said, out of your belly shall flow rivers of living water. Ooh, what did he know about the water sign? Which we're in, right? The translation is, out of your innermost being shall flow rivers of living water. Sacral is a water sign. Water can represent, among many things, our emotional aspect of ourselves. This affects sexual organs, large intestine, lower vertebrae, pelvis, hip area, the appendix, and the bladder. This chakra resonates to our need for relationships with other people and our need to control, some extent, the dynamics of our physical environment. Now, there's two sides to everything. Sometimes control gets a bad side only, but there is also a positive spiritual side of control. People don't like strong people, strong in faith, strong in what they know. It's intimidating. People like vulnerable people. That makes them feel good about themselves. But you that are very clear about what you feel and what you think, I'm sure you intimidate some of your family and friends because of your certainty that you know. This is also called the Hara belt, H-A-R-A. It's a very powerful part of the body. The energy of this chakra enables us to generate a sense of personal identity and protective psychological boundaries. So all the boundaries you're dealing with now in relationships and whatever first developed its pattern at this time of your life. The ability to say no, to set your boundaries. This definitely affects women who did not set their boundaries in growing up and going to school, who are not setting their boundaries with men later in life. Okay, you don't want me to go there, I see that. But this is a sexual, sacral chakra that affects that part of your life. We continue to access our personal strength in regard to the external world and its physical seductive forces such as sex, money, addictive substances, and get this, other people. How, if you're not careful, you can become addicted to a person. To the point that person could abuse you and you're not leaving and going anywhere because you're addicted to them through the sexual act. Now let me just be frank here. Anybody that you have a sexual experience with and reach an orgasm, you reach a frequency in which part of your soul is transferred to them and you develop a soul tie with them. In other words, you stay with them because they have a part of you that you don't want to let go of. Now, this may be new to you, but it's not to me. I've been dealing with this for years with people who have soul ties, breaking them. I had a cousin. I swear, I just remember so much how that she would show up with black eye and beat up and whatever from her husband, and she would tell me, but the sex was amazing. The makeup sex. Now, I don't know if I'm pushing some buttons here. I don't know. But sometimes it's mostly, and it's in men's story too, but women have not made their boundaries sometimes as clear as they should have. And somehow that's still reflecting somewhere in other areas of your life until you're ready to change that particular place. The second chakra, as far as looking at from the Kabbalah, from the tree of life, the Seraphit is the second chakra is aligned to the Yesod, Yesod, which represents the phallus of the male energy procreation. So the second chakra was developed for sexual attraction for the purpose of procreating the race, and it's sustaining itself by passing its genetic DNA from one to another. And probably it was much more that way when we were more even with nature and the animal level of ourselves. We all have an animal level of ourselves. Because if you watch how that works, the majority of that works for procreation reasons. I mean, some of these insects and animals will give their life for that few seconds, not of the sexual pleasure, but of knowing they've passed their genes on and will live in their offspring. It is so strong. There is one male spider that knows she's going to eat him right after the sexual act, but he'll do it anyway. And watching birds, oh my God, what these birds will do to attract a female. There's some great documentaries on Netflix and whatever. It is amazing what they will do because the drive to procreate is so strong. Now, what's going to be powerful when we get there is when we get to the fourth chakra in the heart and start learning how to raise our energy from procreating to co-creating. That's where the energy ought to be going. Most of you here have had your kids anyway. That's over. Procreation's kind of not a thing with you. That's not what your existence is all about. So why don't you raise that energy up and start procreating? Co-creating. What does co-creating mean? It means to cooperate with Creator to create itself into the world. This becomes the new birth canal. It's coming out and forth from the heart. We need to teach your grandkids, teach your friend, teach whoever. Do not go into a long-term relationship because you're sexually attracted only to that person. It won't last. The new attraction is for the purpose of planetary spiritual work. That's what you all are seeking at some level. If you already have a companion, a significant other, don't you desire that you work together and do something wonderful? Somebody's phone is on. Please turn it on. Thank you. Okay. What was I saying?
Work together.
Yeah, work together. And I'm proud of the fact that we have couples here. As I've said all these years, I think I've seen more actual couples in this little group called HeartLight than I have in some of the bigger places that I've been that was 99% women. Women have carried the spiritual thing for decades and ages, has been the woman. All the way from Jesus' time. If it wasn't for the women of Jesus' time, there would not probably be anything that we'd be talking about today. Amen. And I wouldn't have had a ministry for 60 years if it had not been for women. Women have supported me. Women were more open to hear my message. Women were more committed for all these years. So I give honor today to the feminine in all of us. So if you are a couple, try to work on coming together more for purpose of what can we do as a couple to assist humanity in some way. There's always some way. It doesn't have to be huge. You don't have to be well known. You don't have to be on center stage. But there are things in life itself that you can do. And you that are looking for companions and want somebody in your life, make sure that's the vibration and frequency you're putting out. I don't want somebody because I want somebody because I don't want to be alone. I want somebody because I'm lonely. I want somebody to hold me. I want somebody to make love to me. Those are the wrong reasons today to attract a mate into your life, but begin to put out a vibration. I'm looking for a twin flame who has done the same work I have, and we've entered and share a consciousness together in which we cannot work on ourselves as soulmates. I'm tired of soulmates in my life. It's too much work. I'm looking for somebody who is spiritually connected and equal to me, that we can turn out and use our relationship as a holy temple in which we can bring worship into the world through relationship. This is the place of creative ideas to be born. The sacrament in the Christian sacraments is communion. So we have Hindu, we have the Kabbalah, Jewish mysticism, and we have even the Christian. Communion resonates the energy of the chakra that symbolizes the bonds we form with people. Chakra 1, in not the church I was raised in, but you that raised in the Catholic churches and the higher religions, the first thing people want to do is baptize the baby. Baptize them into the tribe. First chakra. That's what that ritual is all about. Get them into the tribe fast. Because if they die, they may not make it to heaven. One of the most ridiculous teachings I've ever heard is that God is going to send a baby to some ring of hell because what? Because it wasn't baptized. So let's change that baptism into a baptism. I have entered this family and this DNA story because I chose it before I came. I needed all of the experience and the elements, good and bad, that I've gone through the family I've come through, not from. Quit looking at your family as where you came from and look at the family that you came through. This empowers you and does not allow you to become a victim to your tribal experience, good or bad. Yes, I was, let's say, abused. Yes, I was abandoned by my father, or I was abused by my mother, or whatever. All these things can be turned into your gold if you will use them right to give you one experience and compassion and passion to be able to understand other people that's in the same situation who are out there by the millions who have walked in your moccasins. Do not hide your story under a bushel. Do not be ashamed of your story. Tell it. And most of all, in the story, when you tell it, is I made it through and you can too. It wasn't fun. It was horrible. It was terrible the way I was done. But now I'm rich in experience. And that's why it says in the scripture, let the weak say they are strong. I got to give you another scripture I really love on this in Hebrews, and it says, for God has taken from among mankind, different people, pertaining to the things of spirit of God. Get this, for how can the ignorant know the way unless we ourselves have been compassed with such infirmity? Is that rich or what? People used to come to me and say, oh, pray for me, I want to quit cigarettes. And I said, well, quit, for God's sake. You don't need to be smoking those cancer sticks. And that's the most ridiculous thing. But see, I've had no experience with being addicted to tobacco and cigarettes. I was the wrong one to come to. I'd give you a slap on the wrist and stop it. Now, if somebody comes to me and connects to my stuff, I go, oh, I get how you're feeling. I'm understanding. I feel the compassion to work with you from that level of compassion. So every one of you are so unique. Your stories are so unique. Even the weak, horrible things you went through is so rich for you. You probably would not be sitting here if it had not been for the things in your life that has driven you out of the boundaries of culture that has been drawn for you. Certainly for me. I'm glad for my thorn in the flesh. Paul said, I got a thorn in the flesh that I be not exalted above. I've actually had, my time up. I've actually had so many experiences in 60 years in which there was sort of an interesting opening that I could have become much bigger and well known. I've had some interesting things offered to me of people who saw potential in my ministry and wanted to promote it and make it much bigger and larger and whatever. And I kind of a few times dabbled into that. And back in the 80s, I certainly was pretty well known in a movement called the Manifested Sons of God movement that was going across America at that time, doing very well, traveling every weekend. People were paying off my cars. People was doing all kinds of things. Somebody got me a fur coat. I mean, just crazy stuff people was doing because I was the man of the hour. But I got a little too big for myself. And when I let people put me on any kind of a pedestal, the higher the pedestal, the lower the fall. And that has happened over and over with me, that I have been cut down to size so that I do not just be the product of my own ego. And I'm glad for that today, because I do not feel in any way my own specialness. Rather, I feel my own holiness. W-H-O-L. You understand? I don't have to have a certain amounts of throngs of people to make me feel successful. I don't have to have the biggest church or meeting space in Charlotte. I don't have to have the biggest number of followers on Facebook. I am reaching who I am to reach, and to those that are being put in my way for a relationship, second chakra. You are the relationship I'm having and you're having with each other. Wow. Well, I could go on and on and on about all this. You know me, I can do that. And we'll see about picking it up Sunday. I don't know. Again, but we will understand. So bottom line is, sacral is about your relationships. But let me tell you the first relationship you got to deal with after the one that you have with Creator. Get that straightened out. The next one is yourself. So forget trying to have it with somebody else if you haven't developed a good, healthy relationship with you. And that's going to come up in the next chakra, in our personal power chakra, when we get into the solar plex. And we begin to clear out of our story. I'm not pretty enough. I'm not tall enough. I'm too short. I'm this. I'm this color. I'm that color. All these kind of things that we've bought into about ourselves. We can rewrite that story. And a story that says we all share and are heirs together in the grace of life. Isn't that beautiful? We're heirs together in the grace of life. And we all share this great brotherhood of light, where we are one in spirit.
Time to let your heart light shine. Time to let your